Dear participants, this is Omer Ongun. I am Cihan Erdal's spouse. Cihan has been arbitrarily and unlawfully detained in Turkey, deprived of his freedom and access to education. But we are strong and fighting hard to bring him home, here in Canada. Please join us at freecihanerdal.ca. I'm honored to be able to share his letter with you through this video. Dear colleagues, I would like to briefly introduce myself. I'm a PhD candidate at the Department of Sociology and Anthropology in Carleton University, Ottawa, Canada. I've been working as a teaching and research assistant at the university since 2017. I work on diverse themes such as young people's roles and experiences in social movements, in their state of being, temporality and memory in social movements, homeless youth and citizenship education in different countries, and contents of state curriculums. I am also the coordinator of Center for Urban Youth Research at Carleton University. Within my role, I help coordinate bringing youth researchers, academics, and activists together from around the world to produce knowledge and policy. My own doctoral thesis, supervised by Professor Jacqueline Kennelly, carries the following title: Resisting Neoliberalism, Investigating Activist Youth Experiences in Athens, Istanbul, and Paris in the 2010s and 2020s. I would very much have liked to be there with you today to contribute to the conference with a presentation of the findings of my field research for my doctoral studies, but I have been deprived of this opportunity. At a time when people around the world have had to shut themselves away, my story of being shut away is a very different one. On September the 25th, 2020, while on a visit to Istanbul to see my family and carry out research, I was detained and taken into custody. I have now been deprived of my freedom for 5 months after a legal investigation in which I gave a statement 6 years ago, became the object of an unexpectedly harsh political maneuver. I do not want to take up your time speaking about the unlawful nature of my situation, nor of the Kafkaesque absurdity of the accusations against me. Instead, I would like to share the words of the citizen philosopher Socrates, words that I have always admired. It is better to suffer injustice than to commit it. And I would also like to say that I owe a debt of gratitude to my colleagues who have shown their support from the moment I was first taken into custody. As of my current position, I may share with you some of the questions which were the focus of my initial proposal, hoping they will contribute to the session. The 2008 crisis was experienced all over the world as a turning point that revealed the true face of neoliberalism, not only as an economic crisis, but also as a crisis of representation and democracy. The spontaneously developing global chain inspired each other, ranging from 2008, the Greek uprising, which began with Aganaktis Menoi, Paris strikes in 2011 and 12, the Arab Spring, 2010 and 11, Spain's Indignados, 2011, Wall Street in 2011, and the other Occupy movements in Gezi resistance in Turkey, 2013. I think these resistance movements can be named as youth-led movements, as they are mostly led by young people under the age of 30. Although Europe and the world have experienced an atmosphere in which far-right, populist, xenophobic, homophobic, and climate denial policies are on the rise, since the second half of the 2010s, young people's collective devotion in social change, especially between 2008 and 2014, requires us to think carefully on their actor and subjectivity. While social movements literature and youth participation literature have been addressing the political participation forms and experiences of young people since the early 2000s, they have mostly focused on the issues of innovation and mobilization. Suggesting to be skeptical of this constantly discovering new tendency that I have observed, I state that it is important to ask the question, what is new, while looking closely and internally at the experiences of young activists. And at that point, we need a phenomenological effort, an in-depth study of activist youth's relationship with tradition, their experience in the present, and their prospect horizons can make it easier for us to understand in detail the ways in which young people exist in the space of social movements and their dynamics of engaging with others, other activists, and movements. While talking about the youth-led movements of the 2010s, we are talking about the communication and interaction grounds of young activists from Athens, Istanbul, and Paris. Within the scope of my doctoral study, we are actually talking about the past in a sense. Past carries more than happened. As Ricoeur reminds us, the promise of a historical event is more than what happened. Therefore, in order to make sense of the activist habitus that create, manifest, and reproduce itself globally, from forms of political participation to forms of action, we must also question the future of the past. That is the incomplete potential of the past. In other words, referring to Koselleck's terms, the tension between the field of experience and the horizon of expectation of young protesters should be included in our analysis as a constitutive relationship that guides their vocabulary, actions. For example, I think it is important to ask the reappearance of the political ghosts of the 1968 or 1970s in Gezi, or on the streets of Athens, in Navarino Park, or more recently from squares and balconies in the capital Santiago in Chile. How can we interpret the rise of Victor Jara's songs in the context of our topic? Such a question shows me that the temporalities implied by the contemporary forms of political participation of young people are and should also be an important field of study. As I mentioned at the beginning, I would have loved to be able to discuss these and similar questions with you from the field and listen to the presentations and contributions of valuable participants. Please accept this letter as an apology for failing to keep my promise. I hope to meet you at ISA conferences and free days in the coming years. And thank you very much for hosting me at your session albeit through this letter. With hope, Cihan Erdal, February 2021, Ankara.